Do you guys think Anthony Joshua believes this really? Anthony Joshua says Fury and Wilder would not be the biggest names he's fought or best I've challenged. Let's jump into Anthony Joshua's comments. Anthony Joshua says, Fury's been a professional much longer than me. He should be looking to retire soon. He wants to cement his legacy. I'm here and ready. I've built myself into this position. I'll challenge Fury. I'll challenge Wilder. These guys aren't the best names I've fought on my record anyway. They're just another heavyweight. Look at my record. They're not the best fighters that I've challenged. When they are ready, I'm here to fight. So those are the words of Anthony Joshua. So Anthony Joshua saying that Tyson Fury and Wilder would not be the biggest names that he's fought or the best that he's challenged. What? Do you guys agree with that? Now, let's jump into Anthony Joshua's resume. So, Anthony Joshua, obviously his most recent fight, he beat Andy Ruiz. Would you say Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder are bigger than Andy Ruiz? I would say so. Second, up before that, he fought Alexander Povetkin. Would you say Tyson Fury is better than Alexander Povetkin? Tyson Fury that defeated Vladimir Klitschko in his backyard. Obviously, styles make fights, but Povetkin nowhere near getting a victory over Klitschko. Deontay Wilder, WBC heavyweight champion, the most prestigious belt. I don't care if he beats Stavern or any of these guys. Was still the WBC heavyweight champion. Big American. Is Deontay Wilder bigger than Alexander Povetkin? I think more people know about Deontay Wilder outside of like the European circuit. American market for boxing is very big. Deontay Wilder, obviously his home country is more known than Povetkin in the United States. More people know about Deontay Wilder before Povetkin fought Anthony Joshua. A lot more people knew about Deontay Wilder than Alexander Povetkin in the United Kingdom. This is before Povetkin fought AJ, because before Povetkin fought AJ, fought guys like Takam, obviously he fought Klitschko. Similar to Joseph Parker, was an unknown quantity before fighting Anthony Joshua, to the casuals. But, to people who know boxing, Deontay Wilder, WBC champion, devastating knockouts left, right, and center, and Tyson Fury beating Anthony Joshua. I'd arguably say that, were more, bigger names in the division. Joseph Parker, former WBO champion. Tyson Fury outstrips all these. I can run down this whole list, and none of these guys are better than Tyson Fury or bigger than Tyson Fury. And even Vladimir Klitschko himself, before we run through these other fighters, he lost to Tyson Fury in his backyard in Germany. So talking about Tyson Fury, would not be the biggest names or best I've challenged. I don't know what that is about, because Tyson Fury is arguably better than all these guys on Anthony Joshua's resume. Some people would argue about whether Deontay Wilder's better than Povetkin, or whether Deontay Wilder, is better than Vladimir Klitschko. That is more up for debate. But Tyson Fury that beat the Vladimir Klitschko, Povetkin that lost to Vladimir Klitschko, that Tyson Fury beat at ease, saying that Tyson Fury would be the best would not be the biggest name he's fought. I think that maybe what AJ is getting at is talking about how big their name is rather than how good their fighter might actually be. Because if we run through this list, would you say Vladimir Klitschko is a bigger name than Tyson Fury? A lot of people would agree with that. If you say a lot of people would agree with that. But apart from Tyson Fury on this, Vladimir Klitschko, I think Tyson Fury is more popular than the rest of the guys on the resume. Apart from Vladimir Klitschko, he's more popular than Andy Ruiz in terms of, especially after his win against Deontay Wilder. He's more popular than Povetkin. Povetkin's more known in his home base in Russia. He's more Parker getting beat by guys. New Zealand, not a very big market. Takam, Vladimir Klitschko. Obviously, Vladimir Klitschko was reigning champion for such a long time. Got beat by Tyson Fury. And all these other guys, let's not even jump into these guys. Charles Martin, let's not talk about Charles Martin. But, for me, overall, I could run through these fighters, talk about Andy Ruiz, talk about Povetkin, talk about Parker, talk about Takam, talk about Klitschko, talk about all these guys, talk about Dylan White. But for me, Tyson Fury is more popular than the vast majority of the fighters on Anthony Joshua's resume. Especially now, is he better than all the guys on Tyson Fury's resume? If you did a poll, and ask, the casual fans, ask fans, who do you think Fury's better than Pulev, Andy Ruiz, Povetkin, Parker, Takam, Klitschko, or anyone else on AJ's resume? I guarantee you, everyone's gonna say Tyson Fury is better than everyone on on Anthony Joshua's resume. The only person you could scratch to say is, could try and say is Klitschko, and he got done. Tyson Fury is the biggest fight. It'll be the most, biggest fight on that Anthony Joshua can have since Vladimir Klitschko or Deontay Wilder, former WBC. These guys got the belts. No one else has had a belt, apart from Parker was a waste of a fight. And Deontay Wilder, former WBC champion, that everyone was brewing for that fight, and Tyson Fury now, those are the two guys out there for AJ. So AJ talking about those will not be the biggest names I thought the best. I think that's a nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Who's given AJ a real challenge? The only fighter that gave AJ proper, resistance, that we saw him bang the canvas, the only fighters we've seen AJ get dropped on the canvas by is Vladimir Klitschko and Andy Ruiz. So those are arguably Anthony Joshua's toughest fights in terms of actually getting knocked down. So would you say that Andy Ruiz is better than Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury? A lot of people would say no. Would you say that Vladimir Klitschko is better than Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury? Some would say Klitschko's better than Deontay Wilder. Vast majority would say Tyson Fury is better than Vladimir Klitschko. So, it's all up for debate. Everyone's got their own opinion. But overall, I just think that talking about Wilder and Fury would not be the biggest names I fought. I think that's a nonsense. Whether they are the toughest fights is another question. But in terms of the biggest names, there's no doubt that Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury would definitely be the biggest names that Anthony Joshua has fought in recent times, apart from Vladimir Klitschko. No debate. Since Vladimir Klitschko, the biggest fights that Anthony Joshua could have is right now. If you could fight tomorrow, pick between all the fighters, it's either Fury or Deontay Wilder. Those are the fighters. The most of the heavyweight rankings, Ring Magazine, I think they put White above Deontay Wilder. That is up for debate. But if we're looking at the big three guys, Fury, Wilder, and Joshua's biggest fights out there for the biggest names is Fury and is Deontay Wilder. There's no one else out there. Are you telling me that Pulev is a big fight for Joshua? Andy Ruiz trilogy is a big fight for Joshua. Dylan White is bigger than Wilder, or is Dylan White, AJ White is bigger than AJ versus Fury or Wilder? Is Ortiz, AJ Ortiz bigger than Fury Wilder? Is AJ Usyk bigger than Fury Wilder? They're not bigger. None of these fights are bigger than Fury Wilder. So the biggest fights out there, and the biggest names, or if Joshua was to beat Fury or beat Wilder, the biggest three names on AJ's resume would be Fury, would be Wilder, and would be Vladimir Klitschko. So I'm not really agreeing with all this. They would not be the biggest names. So drop your comments in the comment section below. What do you think about what I've said? What do you think about AJ? Talking about Fury and Wilder wouldn't be the biggest names on his resume, wouldn't be the biggest guys who fought. Drop your comments, guys. Let me see what you guys think. Cool.